Good evening and welcome. We begin today's news with the political attack that occurred in the political violence that occurred in the U.S. over the weekend. The attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump while he was playing golf at his golf course in Florida. A 58-year-old man was arraigned today. He was apprehended yesterday after trying to assassinate the former president, as I said, while he was playing golf at his golf course in Florida. The President's U.S. leader, President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, as well as other former presidents and Congress members all denounced the attack and also used the opportunity to call that there is no place for political violence in America. This is, as our audience we know, this is the second attempt in 2 months on the former president. Last in July, a 20-year-old man tried to assassinate the former president during a campaign rally. And this President Biden, who just returned from a trip to Philadelphia today, said he tried to reach out to the former president today, but the former president wasn't available. Earlier this morning, President Biden spoke with reporters at the Whitehouse before departing for Philadelphia and said he is glad that the president is okay, and also used the opportunity to call on Congress that the Secret Service need more resources, need additional resources and additional personnel, that the Congress should provide those resources. And of course, this event comes as the world prepared world leaders prepared to attend the UN General Assembly, the high-level meeting of the UN General Assembly that will kick off next week. So there is a growing concern regarding security, where you will have more than 200 leaders from across the world, along with the delegation that will be in New York. New York City, as we know, the security from 2nd Avenue all the way to, so there is growing concern regarding deployment of security, both the NYPD as well as Secret Service protection for these leaders that will be attending. Given the political climate, not just in the U.S., we've seen reporters, we've reported other political assassination attempts on political leaders around the world. So there is concern, and we will be bringing you more updates on that, as well as updates on these recent events with the former president. Yeah, as President Biden announced in July, that setting up a task force to look into what happened, and there has been progress on that, and again we will bring you additional updates on that. And speaking of the president travel, as I mentioned, President Biden traveled to Philadelphia today to attend a HBCU, the Historical Black Colleges and University event, where he delivered keynote remarks as well as announced new investment, 1.3 billion investment in research and development and in workforce for the HBCU, for the historical black colleges and university in the U.S. This new investment, which bring the total of the investment into the HBCU under the Biden-Harris administration, bring the total to $17 billion over the course of the administration, 3+ years. And this current investment will go towards research and development, and in collaboration with the Department of Energy, the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, as well as the Department of Education, just to name a few, to continue on project collaboration on projects and workforce development, as I mentioned. Moving to the other news that we are following. Before I move to the other news, in his remarks at the HBCU event, the president used the opportunity also to tout praise the historical, not just the historical investment for his administration, but the contribution of HBCU to America as well. And he said the attack on DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as attack on immigrants, as we know in Springfield, Ohio, as well as other parts of the country, that it is non-America. So moving to the other news that we are focusing on, a U.S. delegation led by Prosper Africa coordinator British Robinson and USAID mission director Sean Jones, they are pay a visit to Egypt, where they are for a trade and investment visit to Egypt, where they met with SMEs as various as governments and female-led businesses. Of course, this is part of the administration investment, trade and investment between the U.S. and Africa. And as we've reported, the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, last June traveled to Egypt, where she met with youth as well as female-led business owner in Egypt. And speaking of another meeting relating to U.S. and Africa relation, the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Stephanie Sullivan, held a bilateral meeting with Angola Ambassador Miguel to discuss regional peace and security, global health, and partnership with the Angola as well as with the UN. The Morocco ambassador to the U.S., Ambassador Amarin, traveled to Miami. He is in Miami today for a trade-related event mission. We are held a bilateral meeting with the mayor of Miami, Mayor Francis Suarez, to strengthen ties between Morocco and Miami. This, of course, built on the Casablanca, the Casablanca Morocco direct flight that was launched since the direct flight was launched between Miami and Casablanca, and it looking at ways to build on that for trade related and investment in agriculture and other trade sector. And another trade and investment related news, African Finance Corporation Executive Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment team met in Washington, D.C. to review the progress on the Lobito Corridor, the Trans-Africa Corridor project, and as well as how to accelerate, enhance collaboration and accelerate the regional connectivity economic growth. Our audience, we know, we've reported on this a lot regarding the Lobito Corridor, the investments of that is spearheaded by President Biden through the G7 initiative. And as this is part of that effort to continue to look at ways to speed up the project. And lastly, before we go, I want to make sure that we're not missing any other news. And finally, last week, hundreds of mourners gathered in Kenya and also in Uganda to pay tribute to the Olympic athlete Rebecca Cheptegei, who was murdered by a boyfriend just few weeks after competing in the Olympic, the Paris Olympic. He was murdered during a domestic violence attack on her. And so just few weeks after, as I said, participating in the 2024 Olympic representing Uganda. It's just a reminder again, the organizer and those that gather use that opportunity to call on governments across Africa to increase protection for women and girls across the continent against domestic violence and other violence against women. Last week, the President Biden held an event at the White House on Thursday, marking the anniversary of the legislation, the Violence Against Women Act, that he helped pass when he was a senator. And that program, $700 million were announced, new investment were announced to increase provision as well as provide support for initiatives and programs and advocates that are working both in the U.S. and on across the world to protect women on gender related issue, especially protection of women against domestic violence and prevention of violence against women. So this wrap up our news for today, and tomorrow we will bring you more updates, as I said, as we get them regarding any news regarding the attempted arraignment and updates on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. And tomorrow, before I forget, this week, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden will participate in an event, and we will bring you updates on that as well. So this wrap up our news for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Kemi Oshukoya. I hope to see you tomorrow. In the meantime, have a good evening.